Quick question for you. What comes to your mind when you think about survival horror?
I am. You want me to be?
I am so sorry.
No, you're not.
All very good choices. Now, allow me to show you a game that is very cruel, very disturbing, thought-provoking, and intense. If you're a fan of classic survival horror, this game is a true homage done right. Let's take a look into the psychological abyss of Signalis. Upon hearing about this game, I only really saw the debut trailer for it and nothing more. To be quite frank, I was sold right then and there, but it took a while for me to actually get around and play it. But I'm absolutely grateful for going in blind. Launching Signalis for the first time, the game drops you in with little info to go off of, but it's that initial mystique of being on the ship and trying to understand just what exactly is going on in this place. It really locked me in. Exploring the ship, picking up lore pieces, getting hints and clues towards solving the door code, to eventually starting the game for real. And I've seen lots of cool title drops in games before, but this one absolutely takes the cake. A visually striking work of art to entrance you and bring you deeper into its world. One of the best aspects of this game. Its atmosphere and world building is top notch, and it's clear where this game draws its inspirations from. Games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill, to be exact. Signalis has a wonderful sense of building tension and dread. The audio design and ambience really add to that feel. Each room and corridor you enter, all having a unique feel and presence to them. You don't know exactly what you're getting yourself into as you explore these facilities. It can be a lore room, a frantic room filled with tons of enemies, or the classic and genre staple, a nice save room to relax in as you plan your next move. Can't go wrong with one of those. But it's safe to say that this game has a way of keeping the player on edge and never letting go. The retro-tech vibe it has going for it really fits in well. The game offers a few filters to really expand on that aesthetic design, just in case you really want to go all in on that analog horror vibe. Even the tech you acquired during the game all felt grounded and natural. With how crazy the game got, it never went off the rails. Just pure focus and knowing what it wanted to be and how it wanted to execute on that. If I didn't know any better, I'd assume this was a PS1 game at some point. Because most of the rooms I entered, I had to stop and really admire how incredibly detailed they are, only proving you don't need high fidelity games to feel immersed into them. It made me realize that everything in this game has a purpose. There's hardly any wasted spots or rooms. With such a cool vibe and setting and being so well put together, it really complements the wonderful story of this game. And man, this story is pretty insane, filled with all the philosophical and metaphysical topics you could ask for if that's your thing. So if it is, then you need to really get on this because it's a mindfuck of a game. I put this up there on the level of a 2001 Space Odyssey or Evangelion, and in some cases I can feel that energy coming through, so being a massive Eva stan myself, that's all I needed. It's a wild ride from start to finish, waking up as the Elster, is it the... See, I had such a tough time pronouncing this. Waking up as the Elster unit. Right, it's Elster. Waking up as the Elster unit on an abandoned ship on an unknown planet trying to find your missing Gestalt partner, Ariane. And all you have is a picture to go off of, so you're fighting your way through old, rundown facilities, mines, and hell, of course. But you'll eventually reach a point in the game where I thought it was over, but has an amazing subtle way of showing you a cycle is being repeated. There is a side story of a war that's going on between the nation of Yusan and the larger empire that it broke off from, which the nation of Yusan uses the replicas as a majority of its operating force. But back to the replicas. The replicas have these neural implants that they copy from other humans and will inherit these compulsive tics like listening to music, for example. If they don't keep up with these tics, they'll end up going insane and dying. As for the Gestalts, those are human counterparts that assign orders to the replicas, but throughout the story you'll come across other characters who have their own side story. like Issa Itu, a Gestalt trying to find her lost sister Erica, all while both Elster and Issa are on the run from the main antagonist of the game, Adler, who has his own fair share of issues, but it's cool watching them all develop throughout the game, which all connect back to Elster and her journey, seeing how far the characters slip into madness and the other epical units you come across, learning their tics or idiosyncrasies as the game would call it. Signalis also has these very cool first-person sections that break off from the main game. They lead you into a dreamlike sequence, also detailing the past memories of others. It's a nice touch and another excellent way for the game to detail its story. It still amazes me that majority of this game was worked on by 2 people. Only 2 people came up with all of this, and it's an amazing feat. But I'll be honest, it's a complex, multi-layered story with an amazing visual design. But by the end of the game, there were still some aspects of the story that I didn't really understand. But knowing there are multiple endings to Signalis, it motivates me more to go back and absorb more of what this game has to offer. Which is good because I really like the gameplay of Signalis. Being an homage to classic survival horror games, all the bells and whistles are here. Tight corridors with lots of enemies, intense boss fights, challenge rooms, puzzles, and believe me, I got something to say about the puzzles later on in the video, and limited inventory slots as well. And speaking of inventory slots, Signalis only allows you to carry 6 items at a time. That's it, no room for an upgrade later, which can be really cruel at times, but it serves a purpose in the lore. But more than that, the inventory cap really forces you to be careful about what you carry. So each trip you make to the safe room, it's more than just about saving your game, it's planning your next approach, which I appreciate. It never felt like I was rushing through the game. Everything flowed at a nice pace, and when it comes to the general combat, blasting and shooting and all that, I did find it to be a little bit clunky at times when it comes to targeting. If there are more than 3 enemies on the screen at once, it was a little hard to switch between each target, but I got used to that as the game went on. Over the course of the game, you can choose how you want to play scenarios. It doesn't have to be a fight all the time. If you're careful enough and creative enough, you can sneak by enemies and avoid fights to conserve resources. But if you fail, be prepared to start blasting, of course, or run away. But once the game gets to the rotorfront area, that's when things turn up to a whole new level. The game attempts to bully you into submission by throwing you into these hectic challenge rooms that are filled with enemies and chaos. That made me lose my mind in a good way. But it's challenging and requires you to think and remain calm in those situations. There's a huge emphasis on the choice you make in the game and how it will come back to haunt you later. Like burning bodies to make sure they stay dead. Sure, you can burn any enemy you see in the game, but that's not sustainable, so you have to be selective about it. So I chose to burn enemies that were outside of the safe rooms, just so I knew that area would be safe no matter what, because it always happens at the worst time when an enemy will revive when you least expect it. At the end of it all, the gameplay of Signalis is simplistic in design, sure, but it doesn't need to be overly complex. By having focus and knowing what it wants to be, it makes for a better experience overall. You never really get overpowered in this game. They give you enough resources to survive, but not too much. It's up to you and how you play that will determine how difficult this gets. Be smart and remain calm. Now there's one more aspect of this game that I really enjoyed the most, and normally I hate this in games, but the way Signalis handled its puzzles, it really has me reconsidering my opinion on puzzles in games as a whole. Really, these puzzles are truly mind-benders, and it feels in modern game design now there's a directive to not let players figure out things for themselves. Always overly hinting things, and even auto-solving the puzzle for you at times. Which is understandable, I get it. Accessibility has come a long way, and having tooltips is a positive thing, I'm not denying that. But there is something about being given little hints and coming to that conclusion on your own. It's such a satisfying and rewarding feeling. It required a lot of outside-the-box thinking and stepping outside of the game itself to figure it out. I can recall a few puzzles that really had me stumped, like the lockpicking puzzle for example. Up until that point, I had no idea how lockpicking worked, so I was stuck there for a while until I researched just what the idea of lockpicking was, which didn't give me the answer directly and maybe cheating a little, but it was enough to put me in the right direction and solve it eventually. Then there's the way the radio is integrated into the game in the world of Signalis, which I'm gonna say is the coolest item in the game, purely based on how fun it is to interact with. Whether it's using using the frequencies to solve some of the door codes for the vaults, or getting the door codes in the mines, which blew my mind figuring that one out for the first time because I was stuck down there forever, or sending a Magpie signal over the radio airwaves to unlock that box. Even something as simple as the butterfly rim puzzle, where the answer is so well hidden it required me writing down multiple physical notes to solve it, and many other puzzles like it. And don't get me started on that Astra puzzle. I had to get a major in astronomy to figure that one out. But the point is I haven't been able to do something like that since the early 2000s. It never felt like a pain or an annoyance for me to do. It was fun, it was interactive, and it kept me engaged. All of the puzzles in this game, for that matter, from the big ones to the small ones where you just have to get a key and open the door and get an item out of it, it's all integrated so well, and I appreciate the fact that the game didn't hold my hand throughout all of it. The developers really trusted you and believed in you that you can put two and two together and figure out the process of their game. It's a breath of fresh air, and I wish more games would adopt something like this. I know I barely scratched the surface when it comes to the puzzles because I feel that warrants a deeper dive into game design, which we'll explore at another time, but starting the year off right with an absolute amazing game. If you like survival horror, then Signalis is perfect for you. A wonderful love letter to the entire genre, a great visual aesthetic, a crazy complex and multi-layered story that makes you care about the characters involved, a game that pulls you in and it never lets go. Even after I beat it, I can't stop thinking about it. A great experience all around, and if my recommendation means much, probably doesn't, but still, if you haven't played this game, pick it up and give it a try. I'm sure you'll enjoy it, but it's crazy to see what two insanely creative and talented people can do. To the team at Red Engine, Yuri and Barbara, thank you so much for the love and care you put into this, and to 1000 Eyes, Cicada Sirens as well, for the musical composition of the game. I know this wasn't easy, but with your effort, you truly made something great, so thank you for the experience. And thank you all for watching. If you made it this far, thanks for taking the time out of your day to watch the video. And as always, I'll see you all on the next one. Go play Signalis.